Vice President Delcy Rodriguez has former South American political and military leaders are sentenced to life imprisonment for their involvement in Operation Condor. Mali beefs up security in the central region to fight against the rise in ethnic clashes. Hello and welcome to Telesur English. I am Estefania Bravo. This is from Vzla. A delegation representing Venezuela's government has arrived in Barbados in order to continue to hold peace talks with the opposition, assisted by the government of Norway. The talks began on May 14th in Oslo. In an official communique, the government says that it has waited with strategic patience in the interest of defending a peaceful path towards resolving conflict, as the different factions of the opposition work to resolve or mitigate the deep divergences within their ranks.
A delegation from the Bolivarian Revolution is in Barbados. President Nicolas Maduro has designated for that purpose, as you know, the Communication Minister Jorge Rodriguez, Governor of Miranda Hector Rodriguez, and Foreign Affairs Minister Jorge Arreaza, as they have conversing with the different sectors.
Our correspondent in Caracas, Leonel Retamal, has more.
On Sunday evening, Venezuelan authorities announced that talks would resume between the opposition and representatives of President Nicolas Maduro's government. This, after early discussions were stalled in Norway. The dialogue is set to continue this week in the Caribbean island nation of Barbados. However, a specific date and time has not yet been confirmed. Venezuela's Communication Minister Jorge Rodriguez made the announcement on Twitter, while also attaching a communique from the Norwegian Chancellery, saying that in good faith there is effort from both sides to resume these negotiations, and that Venezuela political representatives expect peaceful results coming out of this next round of talks. Last Friday, during an official ceremony to celebrate the 280th anniversary of Venezuela's independence, Maduro revealed that he had some good news to deliver about the dialogue in Venezuela. And later on that day, Juan Guaidó confirmed the attendance of an opposition delegation to the dialogue with Venezuela's government. We now await confirmation of a date and time that these talks would take place, this new phase of negotiations. And in time, we will also know if any definitive action or resolution will come out of these talks that are indeed very critical to Venezuela's political destiny.
We thank Leonel for that report. Venezuela's Vice President Delcy Rodriguez has met with the European Union Special Representative for Venezuela. Enrique Iglesias, who is the former Foreign Minister of Uruguay, is in Venezuela as part of a dialogue process for peace building and national understanding. The diplomat arrived in Caracas early on Monday at the invitation of President Nicolas Maduro, who extended a welcome through the International Contact Group. And on behalf of the government, Vice President Rodriguez also received humanitarian leader and peace ambassador Ravi Shankar. The Hindu religious leader, on a visit from India, arrived with the aim of supporting the consolidation of peace and strengthening dialogue in Venezuela. Condemned 24 former political and military leaders from South America to life imprisonment. This verdict is an expansion of a judgment made in 2017 when the Italian justice system gave life sentences to 8 of those accused of the disappearances of Italian citizens in the 1970s and the 80s as part of Operation Condor. Now, 16 of those absolved in that first verdict have also been given life. Operation Condor was a coordinated plan by several military dictatorships to eliminate political activists and opponents.
It began as an investigation into who was responsible for the disappearance of 42 Latin American citizens of Italian descent. So this is an important decision.
Our correspondent back. Mexicans detained 51 have expressed serious concern about the high level of violent crimes.
The high level of violent crime that we're experiencing, particularly the upswing in the past 2 months, scale and of a nature such that it greatly endangers. The division has historically been one of the most violent regions in the country. with over 25 gangs currently engaged in
So it is our intention to pursue our we should not be an outlier in this regard. Jamaica has too much potential, and we cannot allow the criminals, the gangs who use guns to prevent us from achieving.
There has been a sense to reflect. CARICOM has agreed to of embezzlement. The regional leader a wave of violent protests in the French-speaking CARICOM country. CARICOM heads are hoping to come up with recommendations would likely include the St. Lucia Prime Minister Alain Chasney, the CARICOM chairman A prominent Caribbean economist has slammed regional governments for the high cost of intra-regional air travel. Caribbean Development Bank's economics director, Justin Ram, has noted that while most Caribbean people were traveling out to different parts of the world, intra-Caribbean travel has declined significantly because of high taxes and fees.
I know, for example, for work, when I have to travel from Barbados to St. Lucia, which is a 30-minute flight, that 60% of the cost of my airfare is taxes and charges. And what I'm saying to governments, and I go all over the Caribbean, I say to governments, stop being so myopic. Reduce taxes and charges on aviation, and let's get more regional travel. You will recoup the revenues, because when those people come into your country, they will be buying stuff and they will be paying more back. More people will be employed, and you will get more PAYE taxes.
Mali's prime minister has pledged to deploy more than 3,000 troops to beef up security in the central region that has seen several ethnic clashes. PM Boubou Cisse made the announcement at the end of a 5-day tour of the region on a Sunday. He also says reconciliation efforts are being made between the two ethnic groups. In the past year, more than have been killed due to the clashes between the Fulani herders and soldiers in the Democratic concession run. The protests come thousands of illegal miners were evicted, owned by the Glencore's Kamoto Cooper company, after 43 people died in a landslide. While the government has promised to provide other land where the evicted miners can dig, many have criticized the decision to use soldiers to protect the interests of the mining company. Activists fear that the use of the army to tackle the issue of artisanal mining could lead to violent clashes and human rights abuses. The African Union has made history with the launch of the Continental Free Trade Zone at a meeting in Niger. The pact is set to unite 1.3 billion people and create an economic bloc worth more than $3 trillion. It is the largest such agreement since the creation of the World Trade Organization in 1994 and has the potential to unlock Africa's economy by boosting inter-regional trade, strengthening supply chains, and sharing expertise. Our correspondent in Pretoria, Matuba Malachi, explains what the deal means.
The Africa trade deal that's being signed by various countries here on the continent is something that's been seen as good on paper, but experts and economists are saying it's not practical. Rwanda, and he started championing this project with reducing visa regulations to his country for other African nations, and Ethiopia followed suit in that regard, trying to improve trade here on the African continent. But now many African countries have different economic prospects, so that makes it very difficult for a trade deal for all countries to benefit equally. Another thing is the border control strict measures that other countries have. South Africa is one of the hardest countries to get into on the African continent for other Africans. So that is one of the things that will have to be considered, easing the border control and having trade deal laws that will, or rules rather, that will benefit all countries evenly, so that there are no complaints of other countries getting more than the others. But it remains to be seen if this is something that will be realized anytime soon. But we hear from people who, looking from the practical point of view, saying that the ambitions of this trade deal will not be realized anytime soon, because there's still even the issue of a common currency that will have to be used for all African countries, or at least the countries that are participating. And you see countries like Nigeria who are reluctant to join into this trade deal, making sure that this is in the best interest of their country. So in drips and drabs, we'll see more countries buying into this trade deal, and maybe that's when we'll see it reaching its fruition. It's back to you, studio.
We thank Matua for that report. The International Festival of the Congo has come to an end in Angola. The festival, popularly known as Festi Congo, is celebrated on the 8th of July every year. It is a UNESCO-recognized event which preserves the history and culture of the former Kingdom of Congo, which comprised the current-day Democratic Republic of Congo, Congo-Brazzaville, Gabon, and Angola. The festival also brings back to memory the atrocities of the colonial era and the slave trade in sub-Saharan Africa. Welcome back. Iran has passed the uranium enrichment limit established in the 2015 nuclear agreement. Under the deal, any excess uranium would have been exported to another country. However, because of the threat of the United States sanctions, no country has been willing to import the material. Iranian citizens have expressed disgust at the bullying nature of Western countries standing by their government's stance. Citizens blame the United States and its allies specifically for the current situation and lament the 6 years wasted in investing in their relationship with Europe.
The US and the EU are deceiving us. We should pull out from the JCPOA as soon as possible. We wasted 6 years investing in a relationship with Europe, while we could have used this time to focus on the trade with our neighbors, in order to have a better economy than the one we have today.
The US and Europe are not trustworthy. Iran is doing the right thing by reducing its commitments to the 2015 deal. The US and Europe have never been on our side and supported our enemies. During the Iran-Iraq war, they gave chemical weapons to Saddam Hussein to use against us, and today we want to have nuclear energy. They are saying Iran wants to make a nuclear bomb.
For their part, Chinese authorities have said that the U.S. is responsible for the current tension in the Middle East.
What I want to emphasize is that the maximum pressure exerted by the US on Iran is the root cause of the Iran nuclear crisis. The US not only unilaterally withdrew from the agreement, it also used unilateral sanctions and long-armed jurisdiction to create more and more obstacles for Iran and other parties to implement the agreement. The facts show that unilateral bullying has already become a worsening tumor, creating more problems and bigger crises on a global scale. The international community must adhere to multilateralism, abide by the international order based on international law, and seek political and diplomatic solutions to relevant issues through equal dialogue.
Meanwhile, Iran has said that British forces capturing an Iranian oil vessel off the coast of Gibraltar sets a dangerous precedent and must end now. The spokesperson for the Foreign Ministry, Abbas Mousavi, described the move as an act of piracy. Iran maintains it is not subjected to any European oil embargo and that the United Kingdom's decision was unlawful.
We continue to press the British government to ensure, with great urgency, and in light of the documents presented to them, to free this tanker carrying Islamic Republic of Iran's oil, so it can continue on its course, and we can't accept this act of maritime piracy and this operation which leads to increased tension, and we have warned about this already.
And with that story, we've come to the end of this news brief. These and other stories, as always, find them on our website at telesurenglish.net. And also join us on social media.